Welcome to another segment of Modern Cooking. Today we're going to do Philly cheese sliders, which is one of my favorite sandwiches or subs. And we're going to do them on a smaller scale, of course. Now, as you can see here are all the ingredients that we're actually going to go ahead and add to the dish. Certain ingredients like the Worcestershire sauce, steak sauce, and crushed red pepper, you can omit as you see fit. And I'm just adding them for my own personal taste because this is a menu or this is a dish that I have actually created myself. So again, you can just omit those items as you see fit. I'm going to start out by putting 2 tablespoons of olive oil or vegetable oil, whichever one you want to use, into 2 different pans. And I'm going to start to fill one pan with my steak slices. And this is basically one sirloin steak that's just been julienned or cut along the grains. And I'll show you later on in this segment how I actually cut up the steak for the sliders. I'm going to go ahead and just continue to fill the pan with that one piece of steak, and then I'm going to add my Lowry's garlic salt. I love Lowry's garlic salt. I use that instead of regular salt at this point, but if you want to go ahead and you want to use regular salt, it's totally up to you as to how you want to spice your meat or season your meat. Then I like to add crushed red pepper because I always like any dish that I'm working with steak to have a little bit of a kick or a spice to it because I love spicy food. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some cracked black pepper. Forget it. It's something about having cracked, fresh ground cracked black pepper on your meals. It adds a certain kick to your meal or to whatever dish you're putting it in. Now what I want to do is work with my vegetables. We're going to saute maybe 1 onion, 1 green pepper, both julienned, along with some sliced mushrooms in the other pan that we've also added oil to. And we're going to add them all together. Now if you decide you want to cook the mushrooms separately, it's totally up to you. But I like to put everything in a pan for the sake of time in one big pan. So again, we're going to julienne the mushrooms, the onions, and the green peppers together, excuse me. Then we're going to season with salt and pepper. And again, we're going to use cracked black pepper. And what I like to do is for a little bit of extra flavor to my vegetables, I like to add Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce. Because I like my vegetables, my sauteed vegetables will always have some type of different flavor. Now you can elect to use herbs instead of the spices or the salt if you don't like salt. If you don't want to use the Lee & Perrins, you can add thyme or you can add oregano for extra flavor instead of the spices that I've added. Then I'm going to go back to check on my meat and give it a quick turn. As you can see, the meat browning is starting to actually get done while I'm still working on my vegetables. And you want to cook these or saute each one on a medium to low heat. Now what I'm going to do is take one of my steak pieces and just give you an idea of how I cut everything up or cut up my steak. I like to cut it in half first, then cut along the grains. And I always like to use my Sentuko knife because I think it allows for a better cut. So again, you're going to cut along the grains in very thin slices. As thin and thick as you like. It's totally up to you. The thinner, the better. Then once I cut them into slices along the grains, I like to cut again because again, we're doing Philly cheese sliders and we're doing smaller sandwiches, which will call for smaller pieces of meat. Again, the onions, green peppers, and the mushrooms. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just continue to slice this up. I like my pieces to be just a little bit thicker. Now I'm going to go back to my vegetables. As you can see, they're actually close to being done and they're still holding their color while still working on my meat. And the meat is almost done. So we'll be able to actually load our sliders here shortly. And I'm going to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, not only to my vegetables, but I've also added it to my steak along with A1 steak sauce, again, to give it extra flavor. So you're not just tasting meat, you actually taste some type of flavor along with the meat. So that's about a tablespoon of steak sauce, a tablespoon of steak sauce. Sorry, I'm stumbling. And as I said, you can use any steak sauce. I like to use A1. There are other steak sauces out there, and it's totally optional. You can choose to add or omit it as you see fit. And as you can see, this again, the steak is almost done. So we're going to continue to stir it. And you can also add garlic to your steak to give it extra flavor. You can also add it to your vegetables, but I've chosen to leave it out at this point. So, and with the meats almost being done, it's almost ready again to load the sliders or dress your sliders. And as you can see from the vegetables, they're starting to form liquid, so you want them to cook down even more. You may have to drain them. So at this point, what we're going to do is focus on the slider buns. Now what I've done was I buttered each bun because we're going to actually have to brown the bun in the skillet for maybe 2 minutes. So as you can see, I have about 12 buns here. So again, you just butter them, butter each one as you see fit. And you want to butter all of them before you put them in a skillet. You don't want to butter them one by one. And as you can see, I put maybe 2 tablespoons of oil in the skillet, let it get hot, and then I added my slider buns. You don't want it to be on a high heat, maybe a medium heat, because you don't want to burn the sliders. And as you can see later on, I did burn a few of my slider buns. But it's okay. Everything was still good. And I actually used honey bread here. I use honey sliders. You can use regular slider buns or whichever type you like to use for how, depending on the occasion or depending on your taste. So again, we're going to give that 2 minutes for the buns to actually brown on one side, and we're going to start to flip them over and take them out. And I like to put them on a baking sheet because once we dress the sliders with the meats and the vegetables and the cheese, it's going to have to go in the oven for about 2 minutes. So as you can see here, I'm actually going to start dressing my slider buns with the actual sirloin steak meat. And I like to do 2 pieces of meat per bun. You don't want to overload it, and then you have meat and you have steak and cheese falling all out. So you definitely want to do like 2 pieces or 2 slices of meat per bun. And I like the fact that I use this honey bread because it's going to be really good. And as you can see, you load each slider with the vegetables and the mozzarella cheese. And you don't have to, it depends on you as to how much more or less cheese that you like to add on your sliders. It's totally up to you. I like to do a little bit of a pinch per slider. I don't like to go overboard because again, they're just small sandwiches. You can always come back and get more later. And I also like to add fresh shaved Parmesan to the sandwiches to each sandwich before actually putting them in the oven for maybe about 5 minutes. And once they come out the oven, this is what they look like. And there you have it, Philly cheese sliders. Now what I like to do is add mayonnaise to mine. Some people like to eat them just straight with no mayonnaise or no type of sauce. You can add any sauce you want, ketchup, mustard, sriracha sauce. It's totally up to you. That's one thing about this sandwich, it's versatile. It can be eaten or it can be prepared various different types of ways. And thanks for watching. Tune in to the next video.